Erik Løhre is a postdoc at Simula Research Laboratory. His research focuses on judgment and decision making. I should have known it's right on my cheat sheet. And he's particularly interested in what we do when we try to predict what will happen in the future. So Erik is actually also a journalist, turned scientist. And some of you might recognize his voice from Østlandssendingen from some years back. Today he will talk more about his PhD project and time perception and judgment. So give a warm welcome.
This is the Sydney Opera House, as you can see. In 1957, this building was predicted to cost $7 million and to be finished in 1963. It was completed in 1973, that's 10 years after the plan, and it costed 14 times as much as planned. So we can say that this went wrong. And unfortunately, this is not a unique example. We can think of similar things happening in Oslo as well, like the Holmenkollen ski jump. And we can also recognize that we make the same kind of mistake in our own lives, whether we plan something at work or just try to figure out how long it will take to clean the dishes. We are often optimistic. So why are we optimistic when we try to predict tasks in the future? Well, previous research has focused on that our plans ignore obstacles and previous experiences. So for instance, if I'm going to the store to get some bread, I think, okay, this will only take 5 minutes, but I forget that there can be lines at the store, and that the store can also have run out of bread, for instance, and then I spend half an hour instead of the 5 minutes that I planned originally. But today, I'm going to talk not so much about how we make mistakes about the tasks. I'm going to talk about time. Because when you predict how long something will take, we need to know something about time. And of course, we all know what time is, right? We experience time all the time. And we have this sense that we know how much 1 minute or 1 hour is. But as a smart person said, time is relative. Put your hand on a hot stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That's relativity. So Einstein's quote tells us that time is subjective, and I'll try to illustrate that for you right now by asking you to pay attention to time right now. So that was 20 seconds. That felt quite like a long time for me. Research tells us this, that if we pay attention to time and there's nothing to distract us from the passage of time, time feels really long, right? As opposed to when we have something to distract us from. It's like words and pictures. So in other words, 1 minute is not always the same. It can be longer or larger. In some contexts and smaller at other times, depending on the person and on his or her surroundings. So how does this relate to our predictions of tasks in the future? Well, if you have a task that you're going to do and someone asks you how long will it take you to do it, and you feel like 1 minute is a long time, well, obviously then you think you can do a lot in 1 minute, right? So then it should be sufficient with just 2 minutes. On the left side there, or if you think that 1 minute is shorter, then you should think that you need more. That was the theory that we wanted to test out. So we asked our participants to come to the lab and try to guess how long 1 minute is. We told them to look at pictures like this and then press a button when they thought that 60 seconds had passed. So this was meant to measure individual differences in time perception. And we found that people varied quite a bit. So some people pushed the button after 40 seconds. Some people pushed the button after 1 minute and 20 seconds. So in other words, your minute is not necessarily the same as mine. So far, so good, right? And then the next thing we did was that we asked people to predict some tasks. We gave them, for instance, a text like this. and we asked them how much time do you think you need to write an exact copy of this text, and give your best estimate in minutes and seconds. So this was meant to represent a task that people have some kind of experience with. I mean, we have all punched our computers a bit, I guess. We also had this task here. Try to find 6 differences between those pictures, and how much time do you think you need for that? And I challenge you to find all the differences now before they go away. You'll get a prize from me if you make it. The results that we found for both tasks were really clear. You see here, the farther you go to the left, the shorter you think a minute is, and the farther up you go, the more minutes you think you need, right? So, in other words, the longer you think a minute is, the fewer of them you think you need to do those 2 tasks, which demonstrates quite clearly that when we try to predict tasks in the future, our predictions are influenced by these individual differences in how long minutes feel, right? And we think that this is an important point to make because, as I said earlier, previous research on the mistakes that we make when we predict tasks in the future has mostly focused on that we ignore obstacles or failures in thinking about the task. So we show that time perception is also of the essence. But of course we did this with relatively small tasks and small time units. So it would be interesting to see if we could also find the same thing for longer time units, but that's a bit harder. We can't ask people to look at the screen and press when they think 1 hour has passed. That would be a bit cruel, I think. Either way, the next time someone asks you how long will it take you to do something, maybe you should consider whether you just did something really boring that made time feel really long, or something fun that made it seem really short, that could influence the prediction that you make. And I'd like to end my presentation with a quote. People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. That's from Doctor Who, and I think it sums up what I said today quite nicely. And thank you.